I got to set you up, guys. The camera fell. Hopefully I'm in frame. Hello, guys. Michelle here. So last night, I got so much time on my hands lately for reasons I'm not going to go into, but last night I was tinkering and I did some measurements on the wings a week and a half ago. And some of you know what this is. This has a passive crossover in the foot, and I'm not using the controller. So we're just running on passive. Let the passive network do its job and let it do its thing. And I came to the conclusion with test tones and bursts and sweeps that these EMIMs go so stupid low. And it's kind of normal in the RS-1. It's the same thing. They go down to about 70 hertz, despite the fact that on paper, it's supposed to be 125 hertz. These things go way lower than that. I'm not a fan of that. And the reason why I say this, and that's the same what I have with magnet pens or any ESL, ribbon, planar driver, it is too fucking low. You're really taxing these drivers. Now you could say, you know better than Udell. Well, the past of these speakers have proven that to be the truth. You look at the RS-2.5, RS-4.5, and the older RS-1Bs and the RS-1s, they all popped EMIMs. And now I'm starting to believe it also has to do with that atrociously low crossover point that these things are allowed to play in. For people who don't understand, a woofer will always be better at displacement, and they can handle a lot more power. When you have a thin piece of mylar, right, that's about yay big, these are like 3 or 4 inches tall, about 3 inches tall, that whole membrane has to move. And it can only actuate to a certain minuscule extent. These things do not do what cones do. So can you imagine when you put a 70 hertz, frequency through these things? It's extremely low for a driver like that. I'm not a fan. Add to that, the cost of these drivers are atrociously expensive. 14 of these drivers at $250 a piece. You got to source them secondhand. Ava, American Vintage Audio, is the only one who actually provided drop-in replacement diaphragms, and he is retiring. So we are losing a huge, important source for these EMIMs. I know Graz in Australia still makes them, but his are different. He uses Apogee technology, Apogee ribbons, which has that folded foil in there. It's a different type of driver. With a speaker like this, matching drivers is everything. That is very pinnacle to a speaker like this. You can't go around, mixing willy-nilly drivers in this thing. Today's planars, I've done my research, Bolander Grabners, GR planars like the Neo 8s and the Neo 10s, they all cut off at about 200 hertz. That's about as low as they can play. Of course, you can go around there a little bit by making an array. You can go a little bit lower there. 150 hertz is pretty feasible, but I still find that kind of on the on the teeter-totter edge of its capabilities. So what have we done to remedy this? And this is more about preservation. I want to preserve the drivers. I want to have the max, longevity out of these drivers without worrying too much of what if, it gets a crescendo and all of a sudden I have a distorting EMIM in this line. 14 drivers, that means 14 times the margin of error there, right? If you have one driver, all right. But if you have 14 and one fucks up, the chances are way higher now. So the way I used to run it is I have 2 Crown XLS 2502s. These are the most powerful PAMs in the XLS series that Crown has made. These amplifiers are extremely powerful, especially for Class D even, they're extremely powerful. 775 watts in 8 ohm, 2 channel. It goes all the way down to 2 ohm, 1200 watts per channel in stereo mode. These also can be bridged. Bridged in 4 ohm, they are like 2.4 kilowatts per amplifier when you bridge it in 4 ohms. My memory is correct. So what I did, that's how I used to run them. I would have them running in bridged mode, running each a tower at their maximum allotted power. Of course, when you bridge, you're also basically doubling up your noise floor. Not that you would hear it, because people always, just watch my THD video, it become more clear. And these were ran by the CNMX7. This is basically an ATI 2007 model. It's 7 channels, 7 times 200 watts in 8 ohm, 7 times 300 watts in 4 ohm. This is basically a higher end multi-channel amplifier. I got 2 of them because I have some speakers around there, etc. Because long story short, this system was meant to be a home theater that was very capable in the stereo realm as well. So that means you need to have really good amplification, which fits this. So these were driven by that in 4 ohm at about 300 watts per channel. Now, the crowns have Linkwitz-Riley crossovers on board, 24 dB, which is great. It's a steep slope. It's exactly what you want to see. These were set at low pass, 100 hertz. And when we did the testing, these still ran down to 70 hertz at one point. Why? Because you're running them passively. And this has by itself already 3 somewhat odd crossover points in the array, minus the tweeters even, I think. So make it 4. So I was like, you know what? Let's just run this speaker completely Class D. So now, yesterday, I've set this up in a different way. And actually, it sounds a lot better. I actually gained better quality. I will get to that, why I think that is. But I also feel this video is kind of important to the whole premise of Class D is horrible. So these 2 are now set in stereo mode. So one of them is driving the low-end towers in normal stereo, 775 watts per tower. And the other one is driving the wings, 775 watts per wing. So now we have matched power numbers. We have 2 matched amplifiers that is driving this speaker. As far as this goes, it's the exact same amplifiers driving the whole speaker, the whole system, which I would argue is a way better solution. Also, I gained power cost. Now I have saved at least 200, 250 watts in idle power by not running the Class AB on the wings. Also, better efficiency now because now we have a matched set of amplifiers on there, and the power numbers are basically, it's now we're at what, 1550 watts per channel in Class D, matched. Same input sensitivity, which also is very important. That there is a little bit different. And this here, you're going to have some discrepancies. Now you could say I can adjust for that here and there, but it's not ideal. Now it's ideal. Also, now I have the use of onboard crossovers, and what I've done there, I have basically cut the EMIMs off at 180 hertz and run the woofer towers at 180 hertz. 180 hertz and down, and these will pick up in the up. So now I know what some people will think, well, aren't you going against the design of what Arnie Nudell has intended? Yes, but there is a purpose for it. This is about preservation. This is not about getting that last 5% of performance out of this array. The reason why he went so low with it, same with the RS-1, it goes down to 70 hertz, is because he had issues, I would argue, mangling the woofers or matching the woofers with the EMIM array. There's 2 different drivers here. You have a dynamic driver versus something like this. This is a whole different type of driver. You got to also understand, we're talking about 40 years back in time. This stuff has caught up tremendously. So now I'm running them at 180 hertz down. We have our low, so low pass, and then we have 180 hertz all the way up to infinite of what this passive crossover allows. So it's all about preservation of these EMIMs. I have gained now, for sure, on paper, less distortion, right? Because now I'm not feeding them below 180. That does make sure that these EMIMs stay within their operational values and operational capabilities way better than it does in the original configuration. Also, I now can get some more SPL out of this speaker without breaking apart in the upper mid, right? Especially in the mid section. Now I also have independent volume control on each tower. I can fine-tune each tower to the wing because I have 4 volume knobs now that I can really attenuate the speaker as I see fit, instead of only having it on my bass towers. Also, in the pre-pro here, now this is not my favorite piece of equipment in the stack. I used to have a Anthem, which I miss dearly, but it's just expensive. You know, I'm not going to pay thousands of dollars for that. This is a Marantz. This is 7701. So distance settings are also set in this pre-pro. I've always done that. That always was one of the best DSP functions on any pre-pro. If you use a pre-pro, you know, and I know people will be prejudiced about, I cannot do stereo, whatever. You know, that's your hearing, not mine. But you can really set the distance settings to, and everything converges properly, and time arrives properly. It is a huge good DSP tool to have in your toolbox. So that's how it's set up now. Less power use, less heat development as well, because it's Class D. It's very efficient. My Class ABs don't have to be around now. I can now adjust in stereo, just my 2 crowns go on, and we're good to go. So far, I have to crawl back on something I said in my previous video that I could pick out the Class D. I don't think I can. And that was my biggest fear. My biggest fear was like, okay, am I going to hear that edginess what I heard years ago, what I remember hearing? And to be honest, we have been playing with this since 3 o'clock at night, and it's now 2 o'clock next day afternoon. It's been fantastic. It sounds good. It's controlled. There's no audible distortion anywhere or artifacts or crazy things going on. It's very articulate. The imaging is just as good. It's just anchored in the middle. Everything is running as it's supposed to run. So what else is there to say? Not much. I'm just saying that this is the proof in the pudding that experimentation doesn't cost much. If you have the opportunity to experiment, do it. It's worth it. And sometimes you got to come back on something that you felt not being correct. In this case, it works fine. I'm not going to tell you that I gained so much quality now, but I did gain some peace of mind. Now I know that these EMIMs are operating in a more smoother range than they did before. Now I know that I don't have to worry too much that I'm going to damage EMIMs on the long term. These speakers, like I said, and I say it all the time, are over 40 years old. At that point, it's not about the last 5% of said quality that you might get out of it. Say it's maybe 10%. It's more about the preservation of what this thing is. And that's what I'm trying to do. So with that goal in mind, I think I've succeeded. Just wanted to share that with you guys. I thought it was really fun to show it to you guys of what I've been doing here. And that's about it. That's all I have to say. I hopefully see you in the next video. And is it on? Yep. Thanks for watching.